Why Vandy will take the offense to the next level.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Who? So, Vandy welcomes the Alcorn State Braves on Saturday night. All right, the main goal, honestly, is to take care of business and build depth by giving the young guys a chance to develop. On defense, this matchup will allow Vandy the opportunity to work on their communication, and but I do expect Vandy's offense to further develop their passing game and option run game, which will also allow them to take the offense to a whole nother level. Okay, and did I mention building depth? Yeah, so that's important, right? So one of the things, obviously, with this game and the depth building, I think it goes around to a lot of different avenues. And I like the idea of, some of these down the line guys getting some reps, Nate Johnson getting a lot of run, things like that. But I think the main goal for the offense, okay, and this is important because down the road you're going to need it, okay? But you have to develop timing and rhythm in the pass game and in the option game, okay? And that rhythm has to come with Diego Pavia, obviously, at first. And what's going to be important down the stretch is you're going to need that vertical passing game that I've been talking about all week, something that was a work in progress, to be nice about it, in training camp. And then it did actually improve throughout the course of camp. And then you saw Vandy hit a couple of big plays on Saturday against Virginia Tech in the vertical passing game. But I think you have to work on your timing there, and a lot of that is protection wise, understanding how long you've got, rhythm wise, just kind of feeling out how your receivers run those deeper routes, and then just being able to kind of see the shell of the defense and be able to get things and to get intel in real time. I think those things can only take game reps to do. And so when you're putting together a plan, that has to be kind of a focal point of that plan. Like you want to develop that downfield pass game. Now, obviously, to get the score where you need it to, you got to do what you got to do well, and you got to take care of that business as well. But again, the deeper intermediate to deep passing game, like the post game, the vertical routes, some of the play action stuff, where the wheel concepts, post wheel things that you're gonna hit 20 to 30 plus yards down the field is very, very important to work on in this game. And I think this is going to provide you an avenue to be able to work on the timing and the rhythm of having those type of throws completed. All right. The option game. Now, this is where also you kind of mesh it in with building depth. So the keys to the game, okay, and one of the keys to the game, obviously, or what to expect, is developing the timing in the pass game and the option run game. So one of the things that you saw on Saturday against Virginia Tech was in the option game, there was some, I don't know if it was timing. I don't know if it was just there's no real rhythm or chemistry fully developed yet with the back and the quarterback. But there were times where the ball hit the ground and we were fortunate enough to be able to recover it. But those are things that you can't have happen. Those are giveaways that you have to avoid in something that is so simple, like option run game, because that's going to be a dangerous part of your option of your offense. I mean, I think Pavia ran triple option 4 different ways. There was the traditional dive, carry, pitch progression. There was there was guy running out, and it was dive, give, throw the bubble to the receiver, or it was some form of like, not really triple, but like it turned kind of into a double option where it was, it might have been like, technically it was just two guys running it, but there was three different run options where Pavia could run the dive himself, the back would flare out, and he could run to the edge, and then if somebody came to him, he could flip it out to the back, which they scored a touchdown on that actually. And then there's some other ways that they did some RPO stuff where he would ride the zone dive in there and pull it and then throw the slant behind it. So there's a lot of different things that, like, timing wise with RPOs and option game, that you have to work on in order to be able to, when you go to Georgia State next week, like that's not an easy slam dunk game. When you go to Missouri the week after that, again, that is the first conference game. That's going to be a very, very difficult game offensively because they fly around defensively and they put pressure on you because Luther Burden can score so fast, so often that you have a lot of momentum that they can build. So you have to be able to have answers. Now, they had answers against Virginia Tech, but there were times early in the second half where it got a little stressful because it looked like those answers were starting to go away because you're not kind of progressing that forward. Now, another avenue in the development of these things is it goes beyond timing. Okay, you get your timing down, that's great, but then also you're going to have to as the offensive coordinator, really. And it's gonna be determined based on how much that they can actually handle with rolling out the wrinkles and the plays off of the plays. So the things where we showed the different option runs, now there's got to be stuff. There's got to be counters off of that. There's got to be play actions off of that, and then of course you can build in a few RPOs, a few like second and third level RPOs that can kind of be based on those things where it's where it's more of a double option and you're kind of throwing. So as they develop the playbook too, this is going to give them a chance to kind of work on some things maybe that will allow them to protect these option runs. I really like the formations. I really like the motions and the shifts and the pre-snap movements. I really like that. I really enjoyed that. So I think you're going to see that develop more. And games like this, and honestly, games like Georgia State, if you're playing in the right frame of mind, give you the chances to develop these aspects of your playbook offensively and really get yourself in a situation to where, hey, we might actually have a chance to compete in games in our conference versus just, hey, let's just win our three non-conference games and move on. Like now you have a legitimate chance of getting some of those conference wins and competing against some of those conference teams that normally it would probably be a 30-40 point blowout. Now you're competing because you're moving the ball, you're eating the clock, you're taking a little steam out of their sails, things like that will allow you to kind of take your offense to the next level. And this all kind of ties into that. If you want your offense to be next level, you've got to treat it as next level. You've got to take chances. You've got to get things going within the option game and the vertical passing game if you want this offense to be explosive enough to compete with the likes of Missouri, to be competitive against Bama, to beat Kentucky, to beat Auburn, to beat South Carolina, to be competitive against LSU, to be competitive against Texas. If you want to be in these games, you have to develop these things and develop things off of these things in order to be successful. And so this game allows you that opportunity. This game allows Diego Pavia that opportunity hopefully very briefly. This game will also allow, circling back to the depth thing. Okay, that's one of the keys. All right, that's the third key. But the third key kind of works into the first two keys as well. It's kind of like that, it's kind of like the universal concept here. You want to build depth. And so this gives you a chance specifically offensively. This gives you a chance for Nate Johnson to come in and get a little bit of run there and really kind of see how he can manage the offense in a game situation, because really you only saw him for one play. And I don't think that's what he intended on doing. But then again, I don't fault Clark Lee. I don't fault Tim Beck and Jerry Kill for the way they did the quarterbacks, because Pavia he had the hot hand. He was good. He was, he had a lot of momentum. He had a good feel for the game. So why risk, possibly torpedoing that to bring in a guy cold off the bench? So this game is going to allow Nate Johnson to get a real game like reps and get some evaluation in game situations and things like that. They're going to kind of see what they have in him versus more than just their own defense and what they, other things as well. But defensively, man, this is going to be a very important game defensively too, because, communication offensively kind of goes into the timing, when you're setting up your protections, when, the nonverbal communication of like knowing when to give the ball and stuff like that's important, but communication on defense will also be paramount. I'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. So did you know that LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time to resources or to hire? So LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process even easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions. That definitely makes it easier and for sure quicker. So 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, welcome back. Did you guys know that college football is back? Well, if you've been living under a rock, you would know that. But it is indeed back. There's been some really good games, and it's not too late to catch up before the season really kind of gets away from you. Okay, SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, it's all there. You can get it all from the Locked On stable of college experts by subscribing to the Locked On College Football podcast. You're going to get answers to questions like who has a chance to make the playoff. Is the state of Florida just going to be dominated by Miami? Is Georgia the most loaded team in the country? Is there anybody that's going to challenge them? How's USC going to do in the Big Ten after a good showing in Week 1 against LSU? All those questions plus more are going to be answered if you follow and subscribe to the Locked On College Football podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And shout out to you everydayers. I really appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you make Locked On SEC your next listen. The SEC Roundtable from Locked On SEC is up. It's up on our channel. It's up on this channel. You can go check that out right after you check out this. So now, games like this, okay? When teams like Alcorn State come to town, okay? And I know coming off of a emotional high against Virginia Tech, and you have a quality opening matchup like Virginia Tech, and then you follow that up with a team like Alcorn State, I can sense that it just has a little bit of disappointment. Like you're like, hey, yeah, we played a real game, yeah, and then it's Alcorn State, and you're like, okay, it's Alcorn State. And you almost kind of feel that sense of relaxation or, you almost kind of feel a sense of, well, I guess this week's not important, right? This week is, we can just kind of sleepwalk through this, and we'll blink, and we'll be going to Georgia State, and that game's a little more important. But let's be honest, though, they're all important. Every single game, all 12 are important for different reasons. Virginia Tech was important because it was a quality opponent. Get your season off to the right start. Prove everyone that your changes have had some sort of effect. Mission successful. Game 2. It's Alcorn State. So we talked about developing timing, all that stuff. This is like the best team practice period you could get. Like, this is basically just a big old week of practice. You get really good game reps, and you get to develop some young talent and things like that. So this is why I think these games are important. So one of the things, though, that one of the factors that people don't really look at when they look at these games, when they see Alcorn State on the schedule, is they don't see, especially when you're following this game up with from a quality opponent like Virginia Tech. So these games allow you the chance to see, okay, in film study, everything that went wrong, we can work on. Okay, we can work on. Like, we weren't good enough in pass protection on some of the deeper concepts. So we're going to work on that. Our option mesh, our timing and rhythm in the option game wasn't quite good enough to win throughout the course of the season. Okay. And so you get opportunities like that to kind of bolster those things. Defensively, the communication, the coverage busts, the blitz matched up, for the coaches, the blitzes matched up with the coverages, things like that. And so you get a chance to work on these things, okay? And the defense needs to work on communication, because I think when two guys are coming down on a dig route, and then your slot fade is wide open for a go-ahead touchdown, like, that's a problem. So you have to work on communication. You have to work on, knowing what can hurt you. You have to work on seeing vertical stems and kind of trying to diagnose what routes are coming at you in these coverages. You have to know, I think the DBs have to know the blitz calls so they can figure out who is where, what zones are vacated, where you're vulnerable, things like that. I think you have to work on, when you have a mobile quarterback, this is a perfect opportunity for them to work against a mobile quarterback, because Quinn Ewers can move, although he's not a run-first guy, but he can certainly hurt you. Brock Vandergriff is a really talented runner at Kentucky. I don't know what Georgia State has at quarterback yet. I haven't looked at him, but you have Jalen Milroe. Obviously, what he can do. You have Nico I am Lava. I don't know how to say that name. Garrett Nussmeier, who can run, but he's really not much of a runner. And then you have what's his name at South Carolina? I can't think of it. Thankfully, I don't have to know just yet. So you've got some running quarterbacks, and you need to work against those guys. You need to work on your communication, staying in your lanes, understanding that if I'm super aggressive, I leave a gap. Like, understanding the effect of what you're doing against a running quarterback and what you're exposing yourself to. Kyron Jones is probably one of the most talented runners Vandy will face all year. I think Jalen Milroe is probably the next one. And Jalen Milroe will have a similar effect, similar thing, similar ways to hurt you that Kyron Jones did with Virginia Tech. Sprint out passing game, bootlegs, things like that get him on the edge, get him throwing crossing routes, guys that, where you're focused on the quarterback being a runner, that you don't see the crossing route coming in behind you as you approach the quarterback to put pressure on him. He's just going to dump it right over your head to that crossing route at about 8 to 10 yards. It's automatic first down if he catches it, and probably some change on that. So just being able to communicate, okay, well, we're going to work on, from the defensive perspective, scramble drill. Like, this is good that Alcorn State has a running quarterback. played at Missouri, actually, started his career at Missouri and transferred. But they have 3 of those guys, actually, and they're going to get a chance to work in those situations to where those guys are going to run, move, do things like that. So they're going to have to work on being disciplined and saying, okay, 4 yards is better than 20. So we're gonna force him to tuck it and run because we're not going to give him those options coming across. We've got to see that. We've got to talk. Hey, cross. All right, the linebackers have got to do a better job of jamming. All right, on deep concepts, drop back concepts, where the SEC guys will be able to really hurt you. You have to work on understanding and trusting that the safety is going to get this route, or that this guy's going to go over top, or we've got to understand, hey, in this coverage, we're blitzing with this coverage. Where are we vulnerable? Where do we need to stay? I don't need to do anything more than my job. It's just a bunch of like things like that you can really just kind of get to the bottom of. And if you get to the bottom of that stuff, like, you're going to play a lot better on defense. And you already played a great game overall defensively. You fix a couple of things, like there's like 3 or 4 plays defensively that if they make, it's a blowout. Virginia Tech has no shot in that game if they make those plays, but they didn't. Still won. You can learn those lessons after a win, so that's good. That's good there. So you got a lot of guys, a lot of quality reps. You're it's a great learning experience, and Vandy's far from a polished product, and that's great. And that's a great sign. They did a lot of things wrong and was able to pull out that win against Virginia Tech. So think about if they can correct some of those mistakes over these next couple of weeks against Alcorn State, and then a better quality opponent in Georgia State before they really hit the run of their conference games, and they get a brief reprieve against Ball State, but then it's 90 miles an hour after that. So building quality depth, I think, is going to help in the long run. Be able to put a little pressure on some guys and be able to kind of hold guys accountable for making mistakes, and be able to see what you got in the young guys and give them some quality reps too. So we'll talk about building depth and what that means for this team as we wrap up the show and get you into the weekend next. Gametime. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Yes, download the Gametime app. So did you know that Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier? Man, that's phenomenal. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So, I'm going to a Sounds game this weekend, I think. And guess what? There were some flash deals. There were some really, it kind of curated the seats, and I got $7 seats for a Sounds game. There's not a bad seat in that house too. So this is really exciting. But I got a great deal, man. And it's, again, I got the panoramic view from my seat in the app before I made the purchase. And my wife was really impressed with that, by the way. And that's a really cool feature. They have all-in pricing. So when you toggle this feature on, you get to see really what you're getting into before you buy. So there's no surprises, which is great. But like I said, the curation makes it easier to save on sports comedy theater because it narrows it down for you. And it's the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Woo! All right, welcome back. We are wrapping up the show here, Locked On Vandy. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for riding with me. Again, I appreciate you. everydayers. The comments have been great since the weekend. So I appreciate it. Check out the shows, man. Check out the shows from the week. I know it's one of those weeks where you're probably just thinking, oh gosh, it's Alcorn State, man. It's not so important, but just keep the momentum going. And if you know somebody that's not listening to this show, well, guess what? Get them there. Get them here. Bring them to the show. So we've got to develop depth, and we're going to talk about. I'm going to make my picks. Okay. So developing depth. Okay. I'll say this last piece on that. Okay. Development depth is important in this game because if you take care of business early, which means you're sharp, and it's easy, like night game. You're sitting around all day. You're kind of bored. You're not really like taking this game too seriously, things like that. But if you go out and take care of your business early, that should help the younger guys and the freshmen and the down the line guys keep the starters accountable because they want to play. Like Jeremy St. Hilaire wants to play, right? Chase Gillespie wants to play. Joseph McVeigh wants to get in on the action. So they have to take care of business early because it gives your young guys a chance to get in the game and build quality depth. They get the game time reps as well. They get to see the live bullets. They get to see everything in action at game speed. Now, I know Alcorn State's not an SEC opponent, so the game speed is not quite comparable. So, like getting game reps against Alcorn State is not going to be this. You're still not going to be ready against Missouri or Bama or LSU because the speed is like ramped way up on that. But the point is you're getting game reps with a crowd in the stands and scholarship college players on the other side that don't know what you're doing. Okay. Now, when you go against yourself in camp, yeah, it's great competition, but they know what you're doing also. Like it's kind of training camp is kind of cooked for the defense. Just be honest. So getting that quality depth, getting those reps are super, super important. So you got to build and develop depth. That's the point of these games. People are like, why do we play Alcorn State? Number 3, build and develop depth. Okay. Number 3 could be number 1. Could be number 2. It's number 3. These are things that I was just kind of thinking of as you go. Now, building depth kind of goes into number 1, so it's just kind of part of the family. But I wanted to kind of reiterate that and make that kind of its own main point this week. It's usually just in there all the time, but again, that's just kind of how it goes. So, building depth. That's the name of the game. So before we go, I've got a few picks. Now, there's no line on the Vandy game as of right now. I imagine if one does come out, probably take them. It'd probably be a 40-something point line if it does come out. I don't think it will, but if it does, that's kind of where it is. So here's some picks that I think this weekend that I'm going to take, and I'm trying to decide if I want to take them as a parlay or just all separately. But my first one is Texas. They're playing. Texas is 7.5 point favorites in the Big House at Michigan. Kurt Page and I talk a lot about emotional interference. I think Michigan has a lot of that going on right now. And so I think Texas is going to go up there. Texas has got a lot of firepower, and that Quinn Ewers is doing a hell of a job. Sark is a great coach, has great schemes, and I think is going to show why Texas is going to be a playoff contender. I think they cover that pretty easily. Arizona State, Mississippi State. I'm not touching the game spread, but I will take the over because I think this is going to be like one of those featherweight boxing matches where there's not really any defense and the two fighters are just kind of wailing on each other. And it's like they're all bloody and all kind of stuff. I think you're gonna see a lot of that. So the over under is set at 59, which I think is a pretty good number for this game. So I'm going to take the over on this because I think you have two offenses that can run up and down the field, and I don't think it's going to necessarily be sloppy, and I think it's going to go over 59. Kentucky, I'm taking them -9. South Carolina looked shaky at best against Old Dominion. And that's, let's just say that is a bit worrisome if you're South Carolina or Shane Beamer. You're in for a long year. I think Brock Vandegrift did a really good job running and running the offense. And so I think, he showed that he does belong. And so I like Kentucky -9 in that game. So those are my 3 picks. If Vandy, like I said, if the Vandy game should pop up now, if there's a line on the Vandy game, I'm going to pick it. But there's not one as of right now. And I don't anticipate there being one. Sometimes they pop them up on game day just to see if they can get any action. And I do believe Vandy, if they do pop one, I'm thinking Vandy's going to be like 43.5, 42.5, somewhere in that ballpark, if I had to guess. So those are my picks for this weekend. Some of the things that, our friends over at FanDuel provide us with some of these lines. So this is really a lot of fun. So that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for the show. We're rolling, guys. We are rolling. We're in week 2. So make sure you have a great weekend. If you go to the game, enjoy yourself, be safe, anchor down, and we'll see you back here. We'll see you back here later.